Today's video is all about high-powered reciprocating saws. We're going to be looking at reciprocating saws for cutting trees, and we're also going to answer the question, can a reciprocating saw cut wood? Stay tuned, it's coming up next. What's going on, folks? Kendall here with Renos for Pros and Joes, helping you simplify the renovation and remodeling process. On this channel, we do hands-on product, tool, and gear reviews, as well as renovation tip and strategy videos. So if you're interested in renovation, remodeling, repair, real estate, or home improvement, then subscribe because this channel is for you. So in today's video, we've got some high-powered reciprocating saws, and we're going to be looking at reciprocating saws specifically for the use of cutting trees. And we're going to answer the question, will a reciprocating saw cut wood? So the answer to the second question is obviously an emphatic yes. They will cut trees, they will cut wood, but the question is, how well will they do it? And there's several factors that are going to play a part in how well these type of tools work for cutting up thick wood. Number one is going to be the length of the stroke, which is more or less the travel of how far the blade moves when it makes a pass. That's one of the factors. Number two is going to be the overall power that the saw has. How many passes does it make over the course of a minute, and the overall weight of the saw for some people, because you can get fatigued as you continue to work with the saw. And so those are going to be the basics of it. Now, if you've seen any of my videos in the past, there's going to be a couple of things I want to discuss up front because I've gotten comments on them. And I want to first cover safety. Number one, I want to say that a reciprocating saw is not a replacement for a chainsaw, okay? You can use a reciprocating saw to do some lightweight cutting compared to using a chainsaw for more in-depth cutting. You know, if you're cutting down huge trees and things like that, you need to be using a chainsaw for that anyway. However, the main advantage to using a reciprocating saw over a chainsaw is that there's far less maintenance involved. You don't have to oil this tool. You don't have to worry about this tool leaking when it's not in use and in storage. And third, and probably the most importantly, is these are far less dangerous than a chainsaw. They won't say that these are foolproof, but they're much easier to work with and far less risk of getting yourself cut. The next thing I wanted to mention is that the way that you use this reciprocating saw is going to vary based on your level of strength as well as your overall comfort with the tool. So the next thing I want to say about reciprocating saws is that they're not all the same. The saws that we're going to be discussing today are going to be higher powered saws. These are far from entry-level saws, and the price point on them will reflect that. I will have links to all these tools in the description box below. If you've seen my previous video on cutting wood with reciprocating saws, the most recent one I should say, I pitted up the cordless reciprocating saw here. I pitted this saw against this corded version. These are all Milwaukee saws. Just so happens this is what I've got, and I believe that Milwaukee has the largest or widest range of reciprocating saws in their lineup. I believe they may have as many as 6 or 7 different saws, maybe even more than that. So we've got 3 of them here today. We've tested out 2 of these. In that previous video, there was a clear winner, which was the corded version. It was not clear that that was going to be the case from the specs, but after we did our test, there was no comparison. And so since then, I've discovered that there was a more powerful cordless reciprocating saw, which is this one here, also made by Milwaukee. And we will actually be pitting this saw against our corded version today to see which one is going to perform best. Now, with regards to using these saws to cut, you also need to be concerned with the type of blades that you're going to be using. And we're going to be using a pruning blade today. We've got a brand new pack, so we're going to be able to outfit each one of these saws with a brand new blade. One of the things to keep in mind when you're going to be cutting with these type of blades is that you need to pay attention to the width of what you're going to be cutting, because you want to make sure that as this blade moves back and forth, that it does not end up getting bound up in the material. So you want to make sure that even when the stroke is at its shortest point, that it's still out past the end of the material, if that makes sense. Let me get a quick piece of wood and I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about. So let's pretend that we're cutting this piece of wood here. This is obviously the piece that's already been cut off, but if we've got our blade attached to our saw, the blade is moving like this, right? We want to make sure that we've got a blade that's long enough to be able to move all the way back to its shortest point without getting back behind the wood here, because this is where you have opportunity for the wood to bind and bump, and this could bend your blade, and it can also cause the saw to kick back. So you want to make sure that that blade is long enough to cut like this. So I've already know the size of the wood that we're going to be cutting today, which is why I've opted for a 9-inch blade. Now the next size down from this, I believe, is 6 inches, which would have been too short for this type of cut. It may be fine if you're going to be doing some much smaller pruning on things that are, 1 or 2 inches, 3 inches perhaps. But something this size is this is probably virtually 6 inches, so there's no way it's going to work. Other thing I want to mention is that when you're going to be cutting up wood with reciprocating saws, the stronger the saw is, the better off you're going to be. And so, as I mentioned before, these are not entry-level saws. If you're looking at saws that are, below the $100 price point, your experience with cutting wood and thicker materials is going to be drastically different than the experience of using a saw that's going to be higher up in price range. Okay, you're going to have probably less vibration in the saw, and the saw overall is just going to be more powerful, which means that it's going to cut faster and probably in more controlled manner, because you're going to have less vibrations to deal with. So just some things to keep in mind. I'm going to be cutting here on this table like I did in the last video. I do not have a vise to hold the logs in place, and so I am going to be using my leg over the log method that you may have seen in the last video. And I've also got some pieces of that same tree that we used last time, so we'll make sure that we pretty much got it sized up with the same size material that we cut from last time. I'm going to be cutting with this new saw today, and hopefully the times are going to be much closer together. Go ahead and take your bets on which one you think is going to win today. We're going to start off with the corded version because that was the winner from last time and a clear decisive victory. So we're going to cut with this one first. We're going to cut probably at least 3 cuts with it, and then we'll move over to the cordless new saw and see how this one performs head to head. So enough talking, let's jump into it. All right, folks, first up is going to be our corded saw. As promised, I'm going to go ahead and put my blade on here, and then we're going to go ahead and start. I'm going to be wearing safety goggles today, just in case we have an issue. And got our blade popped in there. We're good to go. We're going to start it off in 3, 2, 1. Okay, our first cut today is 12.81 seconds. So I think that's pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, that's probably right in the range of where we were cutting last time. Let's go ahead and make 2 more passes and see if we can improve upon that as all. So first cut, 12.81 seconds. Let's go ahead and try again. All right, and 3, 2, 1. 11.71 seconds. So we knocked off a little bit more than a second there. I'm not sure we're going to actually be able to beat that this time around. Let's try one more time and see what we can do. Okay, and let's get ready to go in 3, 2, 1, go. Had a little discrepancy here between myself and the official timekeeper, but 11.17 is our time now, and so that is our fastest time. We've made 3 cuts, and now we're going to move on to our cordless big boy saw to see if we've got a tool that can dethrone the corded version. Let me know which one of these saws you think is going to perform the best. You've seen how this corded version performs. I am going to go out on a limb, and I'm gonna bet on the new saw. I've got high hopes for it, even though I realize that this saw is gonna be hard to unseat. So let's go ahead and get ready to use the other saw, and then we're gonna see how it performs, and then I'll come back and give you my thoughts. All right, folks. I'm gonna be be starting in 3, 2, 1, go. 21.56 seconds. This is not looking promising, folks. So let's go ahead and try again for a second cut. It seemed like it started off pretty fast, and then it seemed like it may have slowed down, but let's go ahead and do another cut. 3, 2, 1, go. 19.13 seconds on that one. So slightly better, but still nowhere close to the corded version. So let's do one more cut. After cutting this log with both saws, I thought there was going to be a drastic difference between the performance on this version and the one that we used last time, but they may be neck and neck, and I'm actually wondering whether or not this saw will perform pretty much equivalent to this one. Let's do our last cut between these two, and then see which way we want to go from here. Three, 2, 1. Wait. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. Go. 'Okay, that was abysmal. That was 27.27 seconds. So I believe that was our worst time of the 3 for this particular saw. So while we've still got everything set up, let's go ahead and jump directly into the saw that we tested last time. I believe this saw battery has a full charge on it, and I do have another blade to use. So I'm gonna just go ahead and test that one out along with these two. That was not part of the plan today because I was expecting for these two saws to perform a lot more closely together with regards to their ability to cut fast. So we've got 2 of them down. Let's go ahead and move to the last one. Yep, it's got a full charge on it. It's got another new blade here. Got that one on there. As you can see, we're starting to get into the more knotty area on this log, as luck would have it. Just kind of unfortunate. So maybe if I slide this thing over and see if we can cut just on the other side of it, because this log is pretty much pretty similar in its size all the way down, at least on this section. So we're just going to try to cut past our knot here and see how we can get this saw to do. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, folks, so that was 26.96. I believe that time was faster than the slowest time with the last corded saw. So we're kind of right in the mix with our times on that one. Let's see if we can get this time on this one down even further. 3, 2, 1, go. 25.99. So that's a little bit better. I believe on the last saw, the best time was 19 point something seconds, so we're not quite as low. However, the time is not drastically different. So we're gonna do one more cut on this one, and then I'm gonna give you my thoughts overall on these three saws, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we're ready to go. I'm gonna try to get this a little bit closer to the edge, get my leg a little bit closer up to the edge here to try to minimize vibration, to see if that will help us get this time down. So three, two, one, go. So the time on that one was 33.8 seconds. We may have had a little bit overage over there with the timekeeping. That's somewhere in that range. So that was by far our longest time, and just in watching the way that the saw was performing there, just from a cutting standpoint, I could kind of feel that this cut took longer than the other ones. So let me give you my quick recap on these three saws. So we had a clear-cut winner in this one, which was our corded version, which is our most powerful saw in the Milwaukee lineup. If you're looking for pure power, the corded version is going to be a no-brainer on this one. If you need the flexibility to be able to work without a cord, then both of these saws are more than adequate. I would say that, generally speaking, I would opt for this version because it is less expensive than this one is, and I don't feel that the price difference equates to a huge difference in performance, if you get what I'm saying. And so I think these two are going to be your better value. Now, if you just got money to blow and you want to get, you know, the most powerful cordless saw, then this is going to be the way to go. But just know that there's not going to be a gigantic difference in performance, and it's not going to perform in the same realm as this corded version. If you're someone that works with reciprocating saws on a regular basis, particularly if you're using that saw in different locations, a cordless saw can be invaluable just from a convenience standpoint. And another thing to keep in mind is, depending on the type of cutting that you're doing, the difference in time that it takes to cut with that tool may not actually really equate to a huge difference in your workflow. We were talking about a difference of maybe 8 to 10 seconds between cuts on these saws. That's not really very much time, particularly when we're talking about looking at the totality of the time that it takes you to set up and perform that work. So the first thing you've got to do with this saw is find somewhere to plug it in. You've got to run an extension cord if it's going to be far away from that power source, and then you've got to plug the saw up. The cordless version, you just slap the battery pack in it and it's ready to go. So that's going to save however many minutes just from that alone, which you can kind of deduct from its time to cut. In addition to that, you've also got the factor that you don't have the cord any longer. Now, of all the different types of saws, a reciprocating saw is one of the saws that you'd be most likely to cut through the power cord on. And by not having a cord, you've completely removed that risk from the equation, which effectively allows you to work more freely and potentially faster and more efficiently. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that it's not all about the time that it takes to cut with the saw. It's also going to be about the convenience and the ease of use of that unit. So hopefully you all found this video informative. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.